Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new installment, perfectly on time as always. Screenplay Rewind. I'm Jeff.
I'm Ron.
How's everything in your neck of the woods? I know
Better.
you're struggling there for a minute.
Yeah, isn't it always?
Yeah, this year has just been kind of shitty. Not gonna lie, at least for me. So I get it.
Yeah, it's been weird. The kids started school again. The kids started getting sick again.
It's just like instant too. It's like it sucks how
Yeah.
it's like so. The only way we can give kids an education is to put them into a germ factory for 8 months a year. Have fun with that, parents.
Yeah, it's a thing. But man, they're supposed to grow out of it at some point. Supposedly, it's supposed to be easier this year than last year. My mom said I was sick constantly as a kid, so
I was too. And then when I wasn't sick, I was calling out to play hooky because I didn't want to go to school. So
yeah,
probably says a lot about me.
yeah. I have like a pre-defense for that if like anyone from the school ever does it, because it's like they're never out at the same time. Why wouldn't I just take them both out?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I remember my parents had to call into the school and like BS some excuse for why I had so many unexplained absences from my first period, which was like some bullshit elective business class I didn't even need to graduate. So like for several weeks I just didn't go. I was like, I don't fucking care. I don't need this class. I just didn't fucking show up.
That's the most Jeff thing you've ever said.
I would be out and about too, because you know, like I had to leave the house by a certain time, so my parents would think I had gone to school. So I just like drive to Quick Trip and like get something to eat.
Make sure you don't run into the principal. You got to hide in a bush.
Yeah, just kind of drive around or do something to pass the time, and then I'd go in for second period. I'm just not fucking showing up for that first class. And that teacher fucking hated me.
What?
Because
I don't understand. But you would just hang around somewhere and then go into second period. Why not just go ahead and go in?
I go into second period, just like couldn't be bothered. Just like I hate this class. The teacher's a dick, so I'm just gonna go to Quick Trip.
You're not even sleeping in or anything. You're driving around.
I would drive to get like a fucking soda or something, or like go get some breakfast. So that just eventually,
oh my god,
just vibe for like 50 minutes while the class was ongoing, and then show up at the school.
Oh,
walk to second period.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then but what's fucked up is like what was fucked up, I should say, is because of how I was with school, I was passing the class from like a grade perspective.
Yeah.
Because I was, like able to complete all the tests and shit. I still got most like the homework done. I still had like a passing grade from like I had like a C or a B, from like the actual grade perspective, but because the absences I failed the class until my dad called it. I was just like gotta make up. So I don't even remember what the excuse was, but they ended up like passing me with like a low C or some shit. I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. I say it's fucked up about school. It's like it doesn't fucking matter. It's like I graduated. Who fucking cares that I technically failed my first period class because it's irrelevant?
I did that for my senior history class, I believe. I had Terry Strombeck just would shake his head anytime he was passing by my desk. He would be passing out like homework and stuff like that, and he had us all lined up in rows around the room where he could kind of stand in the middle, but we were still in rows. And he would count the number of people sitting in the row and then pull out that many sheets and hand it to the first person, then you pass it back. Mm-hmm. And he'd come to me and he'd count, and then he just stopped and locked eyes on me for a second. He goes, "You're not going to do it, are you?" And I was like, "Nope." And then he just dropped one page out and handed it to me, and I just passed it back. I never did a single thing for homework in there, but I had A's and B's on all the quizzes and tests, and I got a C in that class.
Yeah.
Moving on. I was just like, no. I was in my shitty teenager stage, and I didn't know it at the time, but I now know I was like severely depressed at that time in my life. And
I was even more depressed than I am now when I was a teenager. So I totally feel you.
Yeah. So I just didn't do shit in that class.
You're also just like,
and he was such a good guy, and he was so frustrated with me. Like I almost feel guilty about it.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like I can't. When I've thought back to that time, just over the years, I can't really like judge teens for being completely burned out on school. You've been going to
Your
school
whole life.
your whole life. It's 12 years. And most of it is just prepping you to be able to answer questions on a test that you're going to remember for a day and then like immediately forget. So you're not even really being taught any lessons that are actual things that will help you. You're just being taught to temporarily memorize shit that doesn't mean anything.
The meme is always, I have memorized all these dates in history class, but I don't know how to do my taxes, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I can count on one hand the classes I took in middle school and high school that were actually relevant to me as an adult. It's fucking stupid, and it's a actual travesty. How I like how this podcast is not like a political like tear down of the fucking public education system, but it is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
Like especially our generations, like around when like our age, it was really bad about only caring about like No Child Left Behind standardized tests. That was all the teachers ever cared about was the standardized tests.
Yeah.
And it was fucking stupid because, you know, you spend a lot of time memorizing facts that are like eventually, if you need to know, which you're probably not, but it's like, wasn't it like Einstein or somebody that said, you know, like dates and facts are what books are for? It's like, yeah. Why is our entire public education system built on memorizing facts and shit like that we have books for? It's like, no, fuck off. So I was fucking so burned out on school by high school. I was miserable.
I was so ready for it to be over. So the two things that I want to throw into this conversation is, one, I had 3, I believe, college professors that would only ever talk about what a disservice it is to students, because I think it's like in like the 70s or something is when they started giving letter grades. And,
oh yeah.
And it used to just be like, you passed or you failed. And my dad would talk about that all the time in his college transcripts and his high school transcripts. They either show he passed or not. And he had passing on everything. There's no letter grades. There's no percentage. And there was no standardized testing or anything like you're talking about. So like people actually learned shit, and you either knew enough to get by or you didn't. But I I had one teacher at Broken Arrow High School. She was incredible. Her name, I don't remember her first name. Her name's Miss Gwen. She was my Algebra 3 teacher. And she taught the entire year's curriculum in the first semester. And then we learned it again the second semester. We did it all again, but we didn't use the book for the problems or anything. She created one problem. She designed one math problem that took us the entire semester to solve, and we worked on it in groups of 4. So
that's interesting.
She had designed this entire elaborate math problem. It was a paragraph on a page. And it took us the entire semester to solve it in groups of 4. We were allowed to use the group members for help, any calculator we had, and any book that we had. We had like the different algebra books and stuff in the room. Any reference material. And she said that the reason she teaches this way, and she believes that all classes should be taught this way, is because in the real world, you have your peers and you have reference materials. And that's not the way things are taught in school. They make you memorize everything, and she says the details get lost. So the way she designed the math problem, we had to know how algebra worked to solve the problem. We didn't have to memorize the formulas, though. Those were in the book. And
yeah, it's taking what you've learned to apply it instead of memorizing.
And she had manipulated the math in the problem so that the calculator didn't just give us the solution. The solution the calculator gave us was part of the next equation. So we had to know how the formulas worked and how to use them. We didn't have to memorize them. We could look them up. We can use notes and note cards. We could use past tests, past quizzes, because there was no multiple choice in Miss Gwen's class. And that sounds awful, putting it out on paper, but I remember that class vividly to this day. That was the coolest thing I've ever experienced, and it was one of the greatest classes I ever took. and like she was like a legit awesome teacher.
It's just nice to hear people thinking outside the box and trying to apply different things that might stick, because I sure as shit didn't get that most of the time. I just got the standardized test memorization over and over and over again. And then you wonder why you burn kids out by the time they're 15. Who would have fucking thought?
There was this awesome moment when my buddy Neil made some crack about she was not a tall woman. She was extremely thin and extremely short. So much so that she could sit in the corner of the room on top of the counter. What do they say now? Crisscross applesauce? Is that what they say now? With a book in her lap, waiting for the students to file in. And we walked right past her, and Neil made some crack about her height. And you just hear from behind, I'm sitting right here. And he was like, oh, God, I'm sorry, Mrs. Quinn.
She's in the room, man.
She's in the room, man. Game over. Game over, man. That's also the class where some dipshit. Oh, God, I hated that kid so much. We never saw him again after he dumped the trash can on top of her class. And she just stared at the trash on top of her desk. And then she looked at him. She just said something like, you can remove yourself to the principal's office or I will call and have you removed to the principal's office.
Nice.
And he just left, and we never saw him. We have no idea what happened to this kid. We never saw him again.
He's buried beneath the bleachers. Never to be seen or heard from again.
He was so... I don't know. I might just ask you this question off the mic. He asked me and my buddy Neil a question, and we just stared at him because we could not understand the issue with his question. We couldn't understand why you would say no to the question, and I don't know if I should say it on mic.
Probably not.
I'm guessing if I had to ask, then I.
If you were hesitant about it, I'm curious, but
yeah.
I probably best to.
But yeah, I loved Miss Gwynn. I loved that algebra 3 class, and then it turns out, at least in the state of Oklahoma, you cannot call a class a college class unless it is actually at a college. So then TCC would not let me test out of college algebra because I already took it. They said I hadn't taken it because I just had algebra 1, 2, and 3 on my transcript. And I'm like, yeah, but...
It's always some fucking bullshit that they can sell you another fucking
But
tuition
I was like, but algebra 3 is college algebra 1. Like, that's part of the reason why I took it.
Always going to find a fucking loophole to make money.
That was the first year they called it algebra 3. It used to be college algebra. And... then there was some law. It's like, yeah, but you're not a college. You can't call it college algebra. So they had to rename it algebra 3. And they're like, look, we don't know what algebra 3 is, and this is a required course. I'm like, yeah, a course I took. So I still had, this is the following year. This is right after I graduated. So I still had a binder full of shit from Miss Gwynn's class that I just burned through that class. They'd put something out, and then I would just turn in the thing and leave, and I was just done. I just burned through that class, and I got an A in that class.
Nice.
Because I had everything from Miss Gwynn's class, and it was still fresh in my mind. It was the stupidest thing, but...
yeah, it's bullshit, but...
But yeah, I learned the semester twice. First time the way that they intended you to, and the second time... this fucking paragraph, dude, it took us the first week to parse out all the fucking data in it and information in it. It was crazy.
Yeah, I had to cheat to pass algebra 2, so that class would have not gone well for me.
It's fun though. It was a fun way to do the thing.
I appreciate any outside the box thinking. I hope over time it's becoming better, and in 50 years they'll get away from some of the nonsense that it was like for me. But I guess we'll wait and see.
Now the kids have new math. That's what my kids will be learning.
Yeah,
that's a terrifying phrase.
You're gonna be learning how to make mazes in the Inception dream world. You're gonna just do that shit.
It's double plus good math.
Yeah, math good.
Double plus, comrade. Oh my god.
Speaking of segues, would you like to talk about some of our comments and questions that we might have had?
Episode 105, Sunshine, the ever enigmatic intern Bobby.
/ maybe future executive producer again, to be determined.
Not enough.
His performance review will be coming up in a couple of weeks.
Right.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll see if he's staying on. We might buy out his contract. I don't know. Not enough people saw this great movie, he said.
Agreed.
Sunshine is, in fact, a great movie.
It is so fucking good and is so sleekly directed that, like, I think we talked about it in the show, but that shit looks like it was made last year and not, 17 years ago or whatever it was. Like, it's pretty bonkers.
The biggest thing Sunshine has working against it is, on paper, it sounds like trash, right?
The name could be better, too. The name is not particularly good.
I kind of like the name. I kind of like the name. It's like
it's fitting. It's fitting, yeah. But it's not. It doesn't really match its tone.
It does not match the tone, yeah. But it's almost a pun, but it's not. Like, yeah.
It's very abstract. It works when you've seen the movie, but if you're talking about selling the movie, it's too abstract to work as like a selling title. You know,
the title works better than the poster. They look like they're opening for NSYNC or something on the poster.
Right. Yeah, but also how do you advertise for Sunshine without like ruining the movie? It's a tough ask.
Yeah, because the genre change about 2/3 of the way through. Yeah, no. It's got some stuff like that on paper. It sounds like a trash movie, but I can see why people didn't, rush out to see Sunshine, but they should have. It's a good movie.
I'm glad that it at least has found like a cult following over the years, where the people
especially with the cast now, no one knew who these people were back then. We talked about that in the episode. If you're doing a deep dive on Cillian Murphy or Chris Evans, or just name anyone in this movie, this movie's gonna come up. So
yeah, Michelle Yeoh, has had a huge resurgence after Everything Everywhere All at Once too, so people could be looking her up.
Yeah,
great fucking movie.
Probably not going to say the name. It's a nonsense name anyway, but we had another comment on Kung Fu Hustle.
These are my favorite comments. I live for this shit.
The best thing, did you see the emoji at the end?
Oh, yeah.
The facepalm emoji?
I love it.
And I'm like,
doing that emoji
bro,
right back.
I'm looking
I'm doing that emoji right back to you, dude.
I was going to say, same, bro. I'm looking at your comment and I'm facepalming. Man, I thought this was the movie.
Facepalm emoji.
Facepalm.
All right, mister. I got some news for you. You haven't been... Now, I know that you can watch movies and shit, fucking theater recordings on TikTok and shit like that. I know that's still a thing on like TikTok. You haven't been able to watch a bootleg version of a movie on YouTube in 17 years. You want to know the last movie I remember watching bootlegged on YouTube?
What's
Ron,
that?
do you remember what the last movie I watched was? The Dark Knight. Fucking 16 years ago.
Okay.
You're not going to watch a bootleg copy of anything on there.
You can.
They are tracking everything.
You can. It only usually lasts a day or two. And usually the title and the description and the thumbnail have nothing to do with what it is.
Why do you need to seek the shit out on YouTube? It is on other parts of the internet that are specifically designed for that shit. So why are you going out of your way to try to like fucking hit the jackpot and watch fucking what was the movie
Kung Fu Hustle?
Why are you expected to watch Kung Fu Hustle on fucking YouTube in 2024? Just go to the fucking torrent site, you idiot. Jesus Christ. Or here's a brilliant suggestion. You can probably rent the fucking thing for $2.99. You can't fucking pay $2.99 to rent Kung Fu Hustle. You're fucking waiting to catch a mediocre fucking podcast upload bootleg. You fucking idiot. I hate these people.
We have another comment. I know those are your favorites. These are my favorites.
Oh,
this one is held for review. And it arrived 17 hours ago. So this arrived today. Okay. It's flagged as potentially inappropriate. Kinda. It's not a suicide comment like that other asshole. But on the 13th Warrior, someone commented, and it's weird what words they decided to capitalize and not capitalize. I don't know. That's not an English as a second language thing. Just random capitalization. I don't understand.
Did we get a comment from the Zodiac Killer? Is it like written in like magazine lettering?
Let me get the snipping tool out so I can just show you this comment. This is great.
This is my first time seeing this. I have not seen this.
Oh my god, stop. I don't care, snipping tool. Paste. No film here, just idiots requipping lots. Fuck this, fuck you too, karma, dot.
I like how karma is like his like mic drop sign off. Just like, got him, bitches.
Fucking goddess.
We got it. Oh my god. No film here, just idiots requipping lots, and fuck this, fuck you too, karma. What movie was this on? 13th
Warrior.
Who the fuck is searching for 13th Warrior bootlegs on YouTube in 2024? These people are serial killers, man. It is the only explanation.
The 13th Warrior on YouTube in 2024.
You can fucking find it for like $1.99, like to fucking rent.
You can probably buy it for that. You can probably go to a thrift shop and find a DVD.
I can't fathom. And these people are combing the fucking desert looking for this shit too.
Okay. I have a question. I think the capitalization. No, that doesn't work either because idiots is not a proper noun. Neither is film. I was going to say the capitalization may be in lieu of punctuation. Is it almost fits? But
I don't fucking know, dude.
What's with the karma? The word, just the word karma. Fuck you too, karma. Is his karma? Like this was his bad karma did this to him? Or we have bad karma because
I think we have bad karma now because we did the fucked up thing of dropping a movie review on the YouTube channel that is for movie reviews. And that's just bad karma, dude. I also like how he could be bothered to type out fuck in its entirety the first time, but you cut past that 2 words. Those 2 letters are asking too much. My man, he's got karma on the mind and not enough time in the day, so he's got like the second fuck is just FK.
He starts out full on writing everything out, and it just devolves into like a Reddit post as it goes. Is that the karma? Wait, what does Reddit call their thumbs up and thumbs down thing?
Upvotes and downvotes?
I thought no. Karma is what you accumulate over time posting.
Oh yeah, there is karma on Reddit, and it's like I think it's like your net like upvotes like minus downvotes, and like your net count is your karma or whatever. I think.
So should I be worried about my karma after talking about the 13th Warrior? Hey, hold on. Okay, we do some jokes. We do some sarcasm. Do we quip?
First of all, do we do jokes? That's news to me.
Most people would say no.
Karma.
We do. But like, do we ever quip? When I think of quipping, I think of Spider-Man.
First of all, Ron. He said we are guilty of re-quipping, not quipping.
So Antonio Banderas was quipping, and we reset it.
You know what's really funny about this is, if I remember correctly, the 13th Warrior was like one of our most researched episodes.
Yep.
And it was in very, very detailed explanation of like the book versus the movie.
Some would say
that was like our least amount of quote unquote re-quipping quote unquote karma.
It was an educational episode for me.
I wouldn't go that far because that's insane. Maybe by the categorizations of the public health system or public education system in America. But
oh no. I just clicked on their YouTube. Jeff, they have posted 3 shorts. There's no views, 10 views. Oh, shit. Nope.
I'm going to go reply to each one and just say karma. And that's going to be the only part of the comment.
They, no views, which that is now 1 view because I was trying to do something else and clicked on it. 10 views and 45 views. They have 4 subscribers. No outside links or anything. They do have, what is this? What is this on their about page? I'm going down a rabbit hole live on mic. What is this?
Probably shouldn't. Bad karma.
This led me to nowhere. This shortened link that they use for their about. It's not a link. I don't know why they have this here. Huh.
Yeah, I just think it's super funny that
It's
people
good.
are still scouring like that. Like you have nothing better to do with your day than to spend 6 hours every night hoping to catch a bootleg copy of Kung Fu Hustle that you can watch before it gets taken down by YouTube.
Uh,
Honestly, the turnaround time was probably even quicker than that because of how much Google has, clamped down on this shit.
yeah.
But do we have any other comments or questions, Ron?
Nope, that was the first time I'd seen that one. As I just realized, hey, I didn't look at the held for review section. No mentions either. But yeah, that's it. That is all of our comments.
I think you had a question though for us.
We do have a question that comes from my wife, Christina. What is
fuck this, fuck you too, karma?
Karma walks out of the room. just says karma, slaps me across the face, and leaves the room.
Says at the bottom of like the divorce paperwork, fuck you too, karma.
Signed karma. Just signs the line karma. She asked for the ring back, Jeff.
Maybe Pinna.3302 is just Chris. That's her alternate ego.
Oh,
she just really wanted her 13th Warrior upload, man. Couldn't do it.
So upset.
So I'm sorry,
upset.
Chris. I'm sorry.
Karma. Dude, that's gonna enter my goddamn vernacular. I'm just karma.
It's too good.
Because I can't tell
if
it's
good.
fuck you too, karma, or if it's fuck you too, karma.
Also, karma ... He could not be bothered to type out the third dot in the ellipsis. That's asking too much for my man.
Hey, at least he didn't pull a Lucas and go ...
There's something that tilts me more than seeing people in like emails at work and shit that type out like 1,200 periods instead of just like 3 works, man. It's a thing. It's perfectly acceptable to just have 3 ... dots.
Just send them the MLA citation on ellipses in reply.
What's our question? What's our question?
Your favorite use of a licensed song in I believe it was specifically a movie outside of Deadpool and Wolverine? Because she already knows that mine is the choir version of Like a Prayer by Madonna in the final act of Deadpool and Wolverine.
It's so good.
It's so good.
That's like that's like when this question got like sent to me. It was the first thing I thought of. It's so good.
It's so good.
So much karma.
So much karma.
So would you like to go first?
Karma,
or you
karma, karma, camellia. That's what we should reply with. So I am curious. I feel like all 3 of us are going to have the same answer.
Interesting. Okay, I will say mine because last time you stole my answer to the question because we talked about
dude. I want a question
superhero
movie
adaptations.
So
bad. Me too. And then you said John Hamm as the question in a noir movie, and I could kill you to make that happen. It's just so good. But karma.
Fuck
but
you too, karma.
So the first one I thought of was in the first Kingsman movie. The way Freebird is used in the church action scene. I've always really liked the way that scene plays out. That was the first one I thought of.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to remember. I remember the scene. I don't remember it having a song.
Yep. They stole Freebird from the Devil's Reject somehow, which had also created a very, very famous scene coincided by Freebird. And the Kingsman scene is so good they one up them, which was
There's
thought never
so
to be
much going
possible.
on in that scene. I don't think I ever realized it has music.
It works so well for that bonkers ass action scene that like once you watch the scene again, I think it'll jog your memory.
We should have those movies on the show because the first 2 are really good, and I've never seen the prequel.
See, I love the first one and did not like the second one.
You didn't like the second one?
No, I didn't like the second one.
We saw that together,
I like parts.
didn't we? How did I not know that?
Yeah, we watched it together at the theater, and I thought parts of it were okay, but overall I was very disappointed.
I love
in the second one.
The first one's the best.
I was super disappointed in the second one. Outside of everything with Mark Strong was perfect.
Oh man, take me home, country roads.
Yeah. So what was your answer?
Mine answer, karma is the same as my wife's ...
Quit re-quipping your wife's answer, man. Come on.
Oh my god, it's too good. Oh, thank you. Hopefully you're not Michael Pena's false account. alternate account. So I thought about coming up with another one in case she finds this unacceptable, but in The Losers, Chris Evans needs to gain access to an elevator, and he does so by posing as a delivery boy. That's just wildly and what's the word I'm looking for? Wildly, loudly, and flamboyantly singing "Journey."
Oh yeah.
What's the name of the song? I'm blanking. I didn't write it down like I normally do.
Oh my
Don't
god,
Stop
I
Believing.
can't remember. Is that what it is?
And later in the scene when he's being chased by security,
Yeah, it's don't stop believing.
yeah. Well, later in the scene when he's being chased by security, when he's been discovered, they actually cut in the actual song over the scene. But yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that.
that's probably my favorite, and that was hers. I mean, my favorite is Deadpool and Wolverine, but I wasn't allowed Karma.
The first two Deadpools also have some excellent song
God.
choices that coincide with like certain scenes.
That opening scene in the first movie with the Angel of the Morning or whatever the name of that song is, it's the still shot of the car crash, the car flipping, and the camera's just moving through it. Oh, it's so good.
And then like the If I Could Turn Back Time song when he's redoing all the shit at the end of the second one is really
when
good.
When he shoots Ryan Reynolds in the head over the Green Lantern script.
You want to know one I will select just because the entire movie works in that way, not to a certain song specifically, but the whole movie in its entirety and its soundtrack is Baby Driver. How a lot of the action scenes are synced up with the music is so fucking cool, and I don't know how they did it because I can't imagine. Like, it's hard enough to make a movie, work period, especially action, because it's so frenetic. To have your action scenes in like gunshots going off in sync with certain songs you've chosen for the soundtrack is crazy.
Oh, dude, that's a thing that trailers are doing now that I cannot get enough of. When like gunshots are being synced up to like drum hits and shit, it's so good.
In outside of movies, but the way that in the Elden Ring DLC they have the boss theme scores set up to coincide with phase changes.
Yes.
Stuff like that is super interesting too.
It makes listening to that soundtrack really weird because it comes on in my car every once in a while, and it'll be like this nice, calm, like mellow music that just gets angry after a few moments of silence in the middle. But
super cool.
They not only sync that up in the game, sometimes some of their moves are in sync with it. Because you and I both watched Lobos Jr. He was in a band, several bands. I don't think he's currently in one. But he's a music guy, and he noticed early on in Elden Ring that some of the boss's like major moves would sync up with the music, and there was some of his dodge timing dependent on what the music was doing in the boss fight.
Yeah,
it's nuts. I'm not crazy. Skilled enough at all with music to detect that, but he detected that early on.
Yeah, it's super neat. And I'm always so like in awe of people that are able to even make new music, period.
Oh yeah.
Because when you just think of every year how much music comes out in conjunction with everything that has come before it, and it's just like astronomical trying to come up with something original, even though like music is kind of infinite in the way that like the scales and everything works and like the combinations of instruments you can do. But it's so impressive. But also I found out recently, Ron, did you know you can buy a BMW which has driving sounds composed by Hans Zimmer?
What?
That is a true thing. They got Hans Zimmer to score driving sounds for this car.
What does that mean?
I want that car. I want that car. Just because it's Hans Zimmer who made the fucking driving sounds. It's an electronic car. So like all of the
it's an electric car.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's all because all of the driving sounds are composed by him personally.
Oh,
isn't that fucking cool? I heard that and I was like, what? Like, that's a thing?
Wow. Yeah, because they've been wanting to do something like that for a while, not just BMW, but electric car manufacturers, period. Because a lot of pedestrians get hit. A lot of pedestrians looking at their phones just walk out in front of cars. They don't have a little blind boy next to them to stop them like in Daredevil. Because they don't hear an engine. There's no engine running. There's no engine sound.
Yeah.
So It's amazing how much you depend on that and don't even realize it, and people just walk out in
Right.
front of cars.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had
I will
no
pay them any
idea.
amount of money they want just so Hans Zimmer can score my driving sounds.
Dude, the thing that I always wanted was I had a TomTom before I had like a good iPhone with good maps on it and stuff. You used to be able to buy packages that are like Samuel L. Jackson is giving you your turn by turn directions.
Oh yeah.
That's incredible. I want to be able to replace Siri with Samuel L. Jackson. Just like, turn left up ahead, motherfucker. Like,
Did you ever hear? It was like in the last couple of years. I forget exactly when it happened, but some company was developing like a Siri-style artificial intelligence voice, and it ended up sounding so similar to Scarlett Johansson that she sued them and won.
well, you know why that happened? They asked her to do the voice, and she said no. And then
they just copied her voice.
And then they just went ahead and copied her voice. And when she
like,
heard
you
it, she was like, of course it's on her radar. They fucking asked her and she said no.
It's like, shocker, you're going to get fucking sued. What are you doing?
Of course she monitored it. And when it came out, she was like, that's my fucking voice. And she sued. And they're like, no, that's not you. It sounds nothing like you. And she took him to court. And everyone's like, no, that sounds exactly like her.
It's totally Scarlett Johansson.
Totally Scarlett Johansson's voice. So.
And you got the fucking idea for it because she did the AI voice in her.
Yeah.
You fucking assholes. She's gonna sue you. She has Hollywood lawyers at her disposal.
You know what I think
come on, man.
I think they had something similar already ready to go, and they couldn't turn back.
Oh yeah. So it's like we either bankrupt the concept we're doing, or we just get sued by ScarJo.
It's like either we start over, or we just do it, and hopefully she doesn't notice. Change it so the teacher doesn't know you copied.
Yeah, spoiler alert. She noticed.
Oh my God.
Was that our last question that we had though?
Sadly, karma.
We gotta stop. It's gonna be in every fucking segment. It's karma. As much as I love that bit.
Dot.
We'll
Jeff.
bring it back.
Dot.
It's yeah. Dot. Not dot. That's excessive.
No, that means something else.
Yeah. Fuck this. Fuck you too, Ron. Okay. We got a movie to talk about.
Yes, we do.
But if I didn't already say, if you have a question, prompt, or comment yelling at us for not posting a bootleg version of a movie,
fucking movie,
you can always drop that in the YouTube comments of any of our uploads, or email us at screenplayrewind@gmail.com. Just ask Pina.3302. We will read off anything. So whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about. You want to talk about public education system for 20 minutes for no reason? We got you, man.
Yeah, we'll fucking do it.
You. We'll do it. Ron, if we didn't talk about it, what led you to select Pandorum as this week's episode?
First off, I haven't seen it since I was paid to watch it when it was in movie theaters. I was a projectionist at a movie theater in 2009, and
as was I.
I got paid to screen this movie, and I liked it. It's not the best movie out there. I think there's some stuff that's worth seeing and worth talking about in it, though. I don't know. I just wanted to continue the theme, and you said you hadn't seen this movie, and this seems like something Jeff should see.
Yeah, this was my first time watching it because I didn't catch it back in the day. I think it does some really interesting things with it, mainly with its core concept. There were some things about it that kind of irked me, specifically, like you were just talking about, like change your answer a little bit so the teacher doesn't know you copied.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you this movie's elevator pitch was, okay, we're going to make The Descent, but on a spaceship. I'm totally 1000% down with that, and that is a cool idea for a movie. What I don't want to see is you blatantly copying segments from The Descent, and there's a couple in here that are just like one-to-one copied. Like when they fall into the sludge pit, I'm just like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
you can't do that. Like that's almost like you're approaching the levels of when John Carpenter sued them for Lockout because it's just Escape from New York. You know, it's like, come on, guys.
So on that, and we'll probably get into this more later, but Travis Malloy actually took it out of space. Like, it was originally a preliminary script that he had written, and it was originally on a prison ship that was named Pandorum. And then he thought no one would want to make the movie, so he decided to set it in an abandoned paper mill.
What?
Yeah, Pandorum was almost a movie set in an abandoned paper mill. And then Paul W.S. Anderson, he got it greenlit.
Why a paper mill? Like, what's so specific? And
I
why?
don't know. That is end of entry.
That's bonkers. Yeah. So
I kind of want to see that movie. I kind of want to see the paper mill version of this movie.
paper mill. Is it just paper cut? Is that the name of the movie?
I don't know.
I swear.
It's one sentence on the Wikipedia page. That is it.
What's also kind of frustrating about this movie to me is there's a couple of elements in it that are really fucking cool that I wish were more of the focal point of the movie.
Yes. This movie feels like it didn't know what it wanted to do. It feels more like the writer, Travis Malloy. It feels more like he took a lot of the biggest concepts from a lot of his different favorite sci-fi movies and crammed them all into one movie. And it suffers from that. But the things that it does good, it does great.
What's interesting too is what he decides to not elaborate on makes it fun to talk about, because there is an entire movie that you could spin off of within this movie, which is, to me, by the way, spoilers for Pandorum. We're gonna talk about it in its entirety.
Pandorum from 2009. We're gonna spoil this thing, Jeff.
Sorry, we're gonna spoil it. We don't have the bootleg, but we will spoil it.
It's too soon.
But I think I would be much more interested in the alternate take on this movie that is specifically focusing on the Pandorum, like them going crazy, kind of like cabin fever
Space
aspect
Madness
of this.
The movie, yeah.
Space Madness, the movie, to me is much more interesting than ripping off the Descent. The Descent monsters, although later on in the movie they have some very cool effects on certain, just real quick, I think the main creature design that they use the most sucks.
Yes.
The creature designs they use at the very end when Ben Foster is crawling over the people are amazing. And I was so mad that those weren't the designs throughout the entire movie, because they were just looking like normal people, but like slightly fucked up. And that's so much more creepy than just Control-C to the scent creature, add some fucking like rebar in them, and then we have a monster. Like their core monsters are very, very dull to me, but I love that scene at the end when he's crawling over them. They look so creepy and so good. I was like, where was this the whole time?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about it. Like, I think there are some really cool ideas in this that I wish that they had spent more time on.
The concept is sound.
And
the idea of Pandorum and what happened on the bridge of the ship, which we don't get, is definitely the most interesting part of this movie. Dennis Quaid has a one-man show in the middle of this movie, basically.
Pretty much. And to me, a much more interesting version of this would be like a very, very claustrophobic movie centered on... It starts out doing so if it was more claustrophobic in the sense of we're focusing on the crew's paranoia, and you have kind of like a Crimson Tide thing shaping up, where it is about like tensions rising like inside the ship as far as like characters and their decision making conflicting with one another, and just focusing more on that instead of the Descent monsters. So like every time the movie kind of grinds to a halt to we got to be chased by the Descent monsters, that's when I start to lose interest.
We got
because that scene when they launch all the people in the pods in the flashback, talking about like the first case of Pandorum or whatever,
and that
shit
one
is
flies
haunting.
by the camera with the guy screaming inside.
That triggers my claustrophobia and like fear of like it's because it's like also like he's floating in space until you're fucking dying of dehydration and starvation, which is just terrifying.
Yeah,
like you're just fucked.
Odds are you'll die of
scarier
dehydration before you die of asphyxiation.
Yeah,
that's a bad
so
way
much
to go.
scary. That stuff like there is so much more interesting, and I wish that had been the focal point. But I understand that the reason they were able to get this greenlit is I guarantee you Paul W.S. Anderson told the execs like, "Hey, it's going to be the Descent on a spaceship," and that's one of those elevator pitches that is good enough to get the movie made, especially on this like scale. It's not a very high budget movie.
No.
So where we were to kind of like to start
overall,
with it.
where do you land before we get into it?
Overall, it's a mixed bag for me because some of the things that it does that I find super cool isn't fully elaborated on, so it was a bit frustrating, but I did end up liking certain aspects of it a lot. I love the idea of the space madness. I like Dennis Quaid's character a lot, as far as them, because the Dennis Quaid stuff is them having kind of like the B plot for the space madness stuff, which is what I find interesting, to the point where he's even hallucinating and, like envisioning himself,
Yeah, what's interesting about the Dennis Quaid stuff is, just like most one-hit wonders in the music world, the B-side is where this thing shines, and the B-side of this movie is the Dennis Quaid stuff.
Yeah, I really like the Dennis Quaid stuff. I'm curious. Did you figure out when you originally watched it that he was talking to himself? I was curious if that was like a...
It was almost 20 years ago. I have no idea when I originally figured it out.
At first it's not presented like a...
It's not presented like a traditional psychological movie.
Yeah, eventually they make it apparent that he's talking to himself, kind of like 2/3 the way through his subplot. But early on, I was just curious if you, because I didn't immediately. I eventually figured it out, but I didn't immediately figure it out, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, I started remembering the movie as it went, because it'd been so long. I've only seen this movie the one time. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I want to say it. I remember there being two major twists. I remember there being the psychological twist and the science fiction twist. And they tried to do 3 twists. One of them was obvious. The monsters are the people on the ship.
That one is like painful to hear them not immediately figure that out.
Right.
Because you're just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, Ben Foster never figures that out. That is given to him by another character.
I think Ben Foster's character is really bad. Ben Foster is doing his best because Ben Foster is a good actor.
Ben Foster is good. His character is written poorly.
His character is written like
he's working real hard with what he's got. He's the Ewan McGregor of this Star Wars movie.
He absolutely is, because like he is a very good actor. He's been in lots of things that I've really liked him in.
Just give him a cheese grater and he'll take those wings right off.
It's
the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in a movie. It's in a goddamn X-Men movie.
It's pretty fucked up, dude.
It's pretty fucked up.
He is such a bland antagonist in this. It's painful because I just could not care less about his character. I also think he's kind of like weird casting for this, because my favorite Ben Foster stuff is usually when he's like in a small role or like a supporting character.
Yeah.
Like 30 Days of Night, for instance. I fucking love him in 30 Days of Night because
I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Do you remember the Drifter character at the very beginning who's like locked up in the prison cell and is like warning them? That's Ben Foster in that, and he's allowed to play up to like his like super crazy levels of creepy that he's really good at. I also really liked him in do you remember him in Hell or High Water?
Fuck yes,
I liked him in that. I liked him in that movie a lot. I think he is better suited as a supporting character instead of like a leading man. Granted, they didn't give him much to do in this.
Yeah, his character is weird because his character starts out being great. When he's crawling through the vents and like the way he's figuring out which way to go, and when he sees the sweat drip off of his face and he's like, oh shit, I'm at an angle. Like,
yeah, that part's cool.
His character's real smart and real on top of everything. And then once it becomes the Descent, he is typical blantagonist, like you said, doesn't know what's going on. Everybody's spoon feeding him information. It's real weird. They're trying to do too many genres.
Yeah, I agree.
There is a version of this movie that I would love to see that is just the space madness, where everything in the movie happens in that one room, the entire movie.
Where it was just kind of like Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid, and it almost worked out more of like a stage play.
Yes.
Where it was just them. I 1000% agree. I also earlier mentioned Crimson Tide. Have you seen? I don't think you have.
No,
it's been on my short list to be on the show for a while. Crimson Tide, once I eventually have it on this show, I think you'll really like, because what we're talking about, where it's kind of just like character driven, that is kind of what Crimson Tide is, with Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman in a submarine scenario.
Okay.
Which is similar to that. And I almost wonder if that was part of the influence of this too, as far as the initial setup to these two characters, because they start to set it up like it is going to be a very character driven, like the tension is not because of these monsters, it's because of the cabin fever of these two characters that are stuck with each other, but also need to like work with each other to survive. And there's a lot of like interesting elements in there. And it also kind of deflates what happens throughout the movie because they split off Ben Foster from Dennis Quaid. The third act doesn't work as well as it could have had it been primarily focused on them two and their conflict with one another, if that makes sense. Right. So it's like when Ben Foster eventually shows up and like they make Dennis Quaid out to be the bad guy, that's like, it works for the viewer because we've been with Dennis Quaid for an hour. Ben Foster has barely spoken to Dennis Quaid within the context of the movie. They have briefly been talking back and forth on communications. But for the second half of the movie, Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid don't even really talk because their comms get cut off when they get captured and shit. So it's like they're trying to set it up to be like a Crimson Tide kind of standoff between these two characters, but it doesn't work because of choices they make to split up characters because they needed to have Dennis Quaid be alone in order to have it be he's talking to a, you know, visage that is his former self or whatever, you know?
Yeah, how interesting would it be if we get a lot of Ben Foster crawling around in vents or in rooms that don't go anywhere and coming back through the vents and stuff while Dennis Quaid is dealing with this alter ego of his that Ben Foster has no knowledge of. And then he comes really back into that one room and we're seeing three people, but Ben Foster's character is only seeing him and one other guy.
Yeah. And I thought that's where they were going with this.
Right? Like, that's what I want to see from this movie.
Yeah. It's like, it's frustrating because the movie isn't bad, but it's just like, it's so close to being great.
Yeah.
And all the puzzle pieces are there. Like, there is a great movie within the confines of this concept and these characters, but it's just like, the direction, I think it's the direction too. It wasn't the same. We haven't gone into the cast and crew, but isn't it the same guy who like co-wrote it that directed it? Yeah, yes, yeah. He co-wrote the story and the screenplay, and then was the So Christian Elvart is the director, and he co-wrote the story with Travis Malloy, and Travis Malloy wrote the screenplay. So he was part of the construction of the story, like the base story, even though he didn't write the screenplay. So it's like, man, they're so close, but it can be frustrating.
Yeah. There's a lot of good marketing for this movie. Like the poster is him peeling the saran wrap off of him from hyperspace, and out of context,
that shit's hard to watch. Like it's gross.
Out of context, you're like, what the fuck is going on in this poster? And like, I remember the trailer showing like a lot of the stuff that we know to be real in the movie, but you don't know that because the trailers pose it as a psychological thriller. So yeah. The shot of Dennis Quaid in the captain's chair as the big tidal wave of water coming around him is in the trailer, and you're just like, what the fuck? Because water doesn't belong on a spaceship.
It's a great shot too.
It's a great shot, and it's one of those shots I believe that you can tell by looking at it. It's kind of made just for the trailer. The trailer for this movie works really good. To my memory,
I remember being
watched it yet.
I remember the trailer for it back in the day when it was, you know, before movies I was seeing in the theater. It was a very good trailer. It was very effective, and it made me want to watch it. I didn't, you know, circle around to watch it initially, but I remember the trailers being pretty strong.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to cover on the podcast, right? Because I
agree. Yeah.
It's got a lot going on both for and against it, and it almost feels like it started out as a different movie and people just kept tweaking it as they filmed it, which is why I almost feel like that's why Christian Alvart has a writing credit.
Kind of spitballing as they were going along.
Kind of making changes as they go. It feels like something that, especially in 2009, that a studio would be like, no, it needs a monster. No, it needs more action. No, more action. Like, no, we need this. You know what works really good? The Descent did really good numbers for this and this. People really like it.
You know what was super funny is after I finished, I watched this on Prime Video, and as soon as it ended, guess what movie popped up as the recommended next video that I would automatically play?
Descent.
It was the Descent, and I was like, I think I just watched the Descent, Kaitis. I don't think I need to watch that again.
It's always a really good sign too in the trailers, like from the producers of, you know, whatever movie. This one's the producers of Resident Evil.
And yeah, the people who
not the directors,
signed
not
a
the
check,
writers, not the stars, the producers of Resident Evil.
the people who signed a check that allowed this movie to be made, but had no creative input on what actually happened on screen. They are the selling point for it.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
I have realized after over the last few years we've watched a few movies from this like era. The camera, like a shaky cam.
Oh God.
That they use in this, and it happened all in this movie when they're trying to sell the intensity and like how ferocious the descent beasts are by having those shaky cam quick cuts to nothing. I hate that trope so bad from this era, and I'm so glad that it was only confined to like 5 years and it kind of went away.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that shaky cam quick editing thing was like this era's equivalent to the low FPS thing we talked about in the late 90s and early 2000s. Remember we bitched about in Lord of the Rings that happened in like 2 scenes in that, and then Shit Can by Peter Jackson. Remember that?
Yeah, it's just like, guys, hang on, my movie's lagging. Hang on.
Yeah. I got the 3060 instead of the 3080. I got low FPS on Lord of the Rings right now. My bad, guys.
Sorry, I haven't updated my graphics card yet.
I gotta update GeForce. Sorry, guys.
Oh God, my drivers are so behind.
Oh man,
what was I thinking when I started this movie?
Every time they would cut back to the descent monsters, I'd be like, "Fuck, more descent monsters!" And then they would show them in that quick edit shaky cam, and I was like, "I want to die. I want to just fall in that pit of the fucking sludge and just not come out because I'm sick of watching the stupid shaky cam edit shit. I hate it so much. It's so obnoxious, and it tells me nothing." A quick edit, like I don't know why it became such a popular trend, because it shows you nothing. You're just getting out of context flashes of like the prosthetics and like CGI of the monsters, and it's like, bro, I know they're fast. They've been killing main characters and side characters. I don't need a stylistic edit quickly showing a piece of their metal in their skin for a fucking nanosecond and then flipping back to our main characters to realize that they're fast. It's such like a stupid shorthand for cinematography and editing. And I fucking hate it so much.
Which is funny because The Descent didn't do that, and this is supposed to be Space Descent.
Well, the thing is like I was thinking about that too, because like the difference
it played
is
with light and darkness a lot more than this movie does.
The difference too is that movie had Neil Marshall, and Neil Marshall is a wonderful director and has a great eye for stylistic decisions with the cinematography. Like, think of how many beautiful shots are in The Descent that are outside the context of like them actively being chased. You know, like there's just good lighting, there's good imagery, the color palette, choice for The Descent with like all the shades of red.
I was gonna say,
their
ironically,
flares is so good.
Ironically, the one scene in that movie that sums up everything you're talking about, the lighting, the shading, the color, the way it's shot, the thing that sums up how beautifully that thing is, and the one scene you can really call beautiful is her coming out of the corpse pit. It's so awful and ironic, but like that sums up everything. The way that corpse pit in fucking Descent is shot is incredible, and you've been seeing black and white so long, or sometimes green because of the camera, that when she comes up just drenched in blood,
such a wonderful image, dude.
Like it pops so much on screen.
And that scene is so synonymous and iconic with The Descent that to copy it blatantly, like, go fuck yourself, man. Fuck this, fuck you too, karma. Like, no.
Dot, and dare I say dot.
Yeah, dot, motherfucker.
Dot, motherfucker.
Yeah, that shit sucks. Like, what's also frustrating too.
Dot, motherfucker.
dot, motherfucker. That's like my yippee-ki-yay.
Strikes a match. Dot, motherfucker.
Yeah. So let's talk about some more stuff we liked though, because we've been very, but we've been critical because of how much like potential this has. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah, well, it's tough love,
like the potential is.
We like this movie, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Oh, it wasted so much of the screen time.
The potential here is like Sunshine level And when it does, like I could, when I was watching this, I was like, oh, I absolutely see how like you watching Sunshine like connected the dots to this, because it is kind of in that same vein.
Absolutely what made me think of this movie, but I didn't want to say that since you hadn't seen it. When you said you hadn't seen it, I immediately just shut up and stopped talking about it. Because watching Sunshine, I was like, man, there is a through line between these movies. One of them obviously far more successful. But it, like, the bad parts of Pandorum, at least for me, like, I don't know, I watch so much like schlock and crap anyway that I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, we're to the B movie part. And then when it goes back to the good parts, I'm like, okay, now we're back into the movie. So the bad parts don't bother me as much as they do you, I think. I think I'm a little bit easier on this movie, but again, it had so much potential because the psychological aspects of this, they play with darkness and light. They play with the claustrophobia of like you said, just that scene, just the way it is shot of all the escape pods leaving from all sides of the ship. You're at a distance looking at it is just a terrifying image in itself.
Dude, my jaw dropped with that. My jaw dropped when they had that scene showing the past when all the people got ejected to die.
Eden, I believe.
Like that shit made my jaw drop because like that is a terrifying idea and the shot of it is wonderful. Like it's because it's like it's like instantaneous when all the pods get like ejected at the exact same time and they're all going out to die.
Yeah,
it's such a great like that's like I wish they had realized ahead of time that like that's the money-making idea of this, not the descent monsters. Right. And like it's frustrating that they had like they had like 5 or 6 kind of like concepts, and instead of fully fleshing out like 2 of them, they have like 5 semi-fleshed out concepts, which ultimately makes this like this could have been like a like science fiction like classic. But what it ends up being is kind of like a really, really good Sci-Fi Channel original movie.
Right.
It's kind of like in that kind of ballpark. But yeah, there's a lot to.
If this is
like.
What this movie was, it'd be top of the pops, right? Like,
yeah.
Like I was saying too, him crawling through the vents. Like, you remember what I was talking about on? There's another one recently. I don't know if it was on Sunshine. About spaceship design and like utility and like wasted space, like big open cavernous wasted space and stuff like that. Like this ship is designed with those concepts in mind, right? Like they look like an actual thing. No space is wasted. There's utility everywhere. It doesn't have the big wide open like alien vents. It's full of hoses and conduits and everything that Ben Foster's getting tangled up. He's having to disentangle. He's crawling through them. He's trying to squeeze through. The dude that is in Dennis Quaid's mind later comes squeezing out of him, which I believe that to be a memory he's interacting with, right? Like a loose memory. But yeah, it's it plays with a lot of concepts. I think the way his quote-unquote non-lethal weapon, riot control weapon, is meant to work is to play with color because everything is so drab and it's this bright blue and white color. Looks almost like flame. It's like a Mega Man blast when he shoots
I have a question about that too. Don't they specifically say early on that that's going to be like non-fatal? Does he like hotwire it to make it a fucking cannon? Because later on it looks pretty fucking effective to me when he's like eviscerating shit with it.
It's supposed to be non-lethal riot control, and I think what the concept is when he pumps it, it has a series of lights that light up. I think you would only pump it like 2 or 3 times. Overclocking it, kind of. Yeah, I think it's like a super soaker or like a BB gun. He's just over pumping it.
Okay.
Because
I was very confused by that because they take time out of the movie a few times to talk about how like this like non-lethal thing is. It's like, man, it looks like a fucking
It looks like a Mega Man to blast, me. Right?
It looks like it looks like you use that to clear out. It looks like a fucking weapon in Doom, dude, that you blow up
the
demons
BFG.
with.
Yeah, Ben Foster's got a fucking Hadouken.
He really does. Yeah, that shit's pretty fucking effective to me, man.
Several times they show him hold it up and pump his fist, and as he's pumping the handle on it, a series of lights light up across a bar. And I think in a riot control situation, you'd give it like 2 or 3 pumps and fire, and he's just sitting there pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping. That's what I got from it.
You know another thing that like bummed me out about the creature design is like one of the creature designs they nailed as far as making them creepy is the kids.
The kid is amazing.
The kid looks so creepy and it's such a good effect. And
it's such a good effect. They stop the movie to stare at it. And then when it goes away, they're like, they're breeding?
But it's also frustrating because there's a couple of moments where characters are like, we can't kill them, they're kids. If I saw that fucking thing in the hallway, it's getting Mega Man gunned, dude. Look at that thing.
Charge shot, motherfucker.
That thing is fucking haunting.
Yeah.
That thing is getting Mega Man cannon. That thing's getting the BFG. I'm not gonna like let it pass because it's a kid. That's a fucking nightmare fuel thing walking down the hallway.
On this podcast, we call it the BKG, the big karma gun.
The big karma gun. But yeah, it's like the one creature they absolutely nailed. Their script called for them to be like endearing looking and kind of cute when they just look like something I would shoot in the face immediately.
Yeah, I think the way you described that though, they kind of nail it. It's adorable in a terrifying way, right? Like that and the kid is the acting the kid does is so good.
Yeah. Also, it has to die.
It has to die.
Not be I would pause for a second because I would be absolutely horrified and shitting my pants because the kid looks creepy as fuck. But then it dies. I don't let it go just because it's a kid. It has to die because it's a fucking nightmare fuel creature. And just because it's small, it is still a child nightmare fuel creature that has to die.
And like all the creatures are semi-fused with parts of the ship. And they're all scarred and cut up and deformed. And this thing is like perfect, right? Like its skin is perfect. It's got no scars. It's got no hoses or wiring or anything coming out of it. And
the milky discoloration
of
it.
Skin.
Yeah, the shade of like milky white they have with it is so disgusting and gross to look at. But you can't look away.
It looks like some like literature depictions of like a vampire, right? With the eyes like a shark and the alabaster white skin and it makes
your fucking skin crawl, dude. It's such a good effect. Like they absolutely it's like that's what sucks too. It's like the kid looks great. All the people like that are kind of like asleep, they're creatures that are asleep at the very end, they look great. But like I think the main creature designs they came up with, maybe part of it was like functionality because they needed them to work as part of like an action scene as opposed to, you know, the kid kind of just stares there creepily and the people later on are just kind of like creepily laying about. But I don't know. But yeah, some of the effects are really good.
Dude, with the way these creatures sleep down by the reactor, you know that was one hell of an orgy, right?
Oh yeah.
Like we missed out, man. We should have been there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, when this movie's good, it's great.
Yeah.
The from the producers of Resident Evil, I think really rings true because it really does feel like one of the Resident Evil movies. We've even got like the martial arts guy, the lady in this, Nadia.
She's my favorite character.
She's my favorite character, and she is really made up to look like Mila Jovovich in the Resident Evil movies.
Did you catch what else she's been in, by the way?
No, I have not looked her up.
So I remembered her specifically. She is Zod's lieutenant Kryptonian in Man of Steel, the one who fights Superman a couple times, and she's super good in that too. She doesn't have a big role in that as far as like speaking lines, but she has like a real like intensity to her that I think works really well for this and for Man of Steel.
Yeah. So when I said I hadn't looked her up at all is when I had opened her IMDb in a new tab. The first thing I saw was The Flash, and I was looking at the name, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And when you said that, I went over one and up one. It was Man of Steel, And I was like, she.
I think your name is like Feora. I think in Man of Steel.
Feora Ul or something. Ul.
Yeah.
She is the most terrifying part of that movie. Fuck Zod.
Yeah, she's awesome. Like she just like stands there with like this intensity to her that's like you don't want to fuck with her, man.
She's the one that you see go Dragon Ball Z the first time because people are like pointing guns at her, and she just disappears and reappears holding one of them by the throat because she moves so fast.
They're moving like Super Saiyans.
Yeah.
Like they're just like it looks like teleportation because they're so fast. Yeah, she's great.
I think she's the first time you see that in the movie. It's. You ever notice, by the way, in Bumblebee, the Decepticons kind of pull the same kind of thing with the humans that Zod does when he comes down. He talks to them and then tells them what he's going to do to this planet. And then we have like so long to like give up the Kryptonian or whatever. And then in Bumblebee, the Decepticons are like, you have so long to give up Bumblebee. This is what we're going to do to this planet. Like the other day, I started up Man of Steel for the kids. And for the kids,
I have to reach these keys.
And I was sitting there like, this is the plot of fucking Bumblebee. They straight up pulled that out of Man of Steel.
I hadn't thought about that, but it is really similar.
I like the way they pop. That's one of the best lines in Bumblebee. When he blows up the asshole.
I need to watch that. I only ever watched it that one time in the theater when we saw it. I need to watch it again because I liked Bumblebee quite a bit.
They blow up the asshole's car, and he's clearly like a wife-beating son of a bitch and stuff. So you feel no emotion when one of the Decepticons pops him. He just pops into a pile of like green ooze. He pops like a bubble, and just green ooze goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's like, I like the way they pop.
And another person making a Screenplay Rewind second appearance. Did you catch who Gallo is?
No.
Gallo is James from Twilight.
What?
Yeah, he is James from Twilight.
That's why he looks so goddamn familiar. If you look at IMDb, don't even open the photos. It's just the fourth photo into the photos area. He's holding the syringe up. And he's looking with those intense eyes. If you put those contact lenses in him, it's the exact same way he looks at Bella.
Yep, that's him. It was driving me crazy what I had seen him in. So I found out where I'd seen him too.
Yeah, it was driving me nuts, but I never figured it out.
Yep.
Huh.
So I have a question too.
Oh no.
Why is Norman Reedus in this movie for 5 minutes?
I don't know.
I was bummed out. I love Norman Reedus. He had already this wasn't super early on in his career. Like this was after Boondock Saints, so like he has a bit of he wasn't in The Walking Dead yet, so he wasn't he wasn't a household name yet, but he was still Norman Reedus and had been in the Boondock Saints and other shit. Why is he in this for 5 minutes? That was very bizarre to me.
Had we seen? Yeah, he'd been in Blade by this point too.
Yeah, he had been in several things.
Scud. He was Scud in Blade.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool, Norman Reedus is in this. And he gets killed instantly.
Yeah.
I think like Norman Reedus almost would have been like better as the main character in this. And they would have just used Ben Foster as like the creepy cannibal guy or something.
Or Ben Foster as Dennis Quaid's broken psyche.
Yeah, that could have been good too. I just thought it was it's almost like Norman Reedus
because that would put him in that supporting role like you were talking about. That'd put him second to Dennis Quaid, and he'd be in that like you were talking about how you like to see him in the supporting role. That would have put him.
Well, not specifically specifically the supporting role because it is usually in supporting characters when they can be more eccentric and weird. And Ben Foster is amazing at playing like weird eccentric characters.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if he had been that instead of Twilight Man,
he could have done that.
He could have been that weird, creepy,
like
guy.
Unhinged.
Yeah, unhinged.
Like he's better when he's unhinged instead of playing the protagonist.
Imagine if it was Ben Foster standing there looking at his reflection, looking at his reflection back at Dennis Quaid, holding the pipe that Dennis Quaid was reaching for.
Yeah,
right? Like,
be great.
That would have been great.
Yeah, it'd been very, very, and you would have been able to spend more time.
So close.
It's super close.
It's so close to being there.
So fucking close.
It's got all the elements. It was just overmixed or something, before it was put in the oven.
And that would have allowed like Nadia to just be the main character, who was much more likable as a main character to me anyway. Because even though we were technically getting more like speaking lines from Ben Foster, and technically he's the protagonist, I liked Nadia better anyway.
Yeah.
So like just have Nadia be the main character as far as like the other other plot line.
We keep calling back to The Descent, and this movie does too. But I feel like what it's trying really hard to be is Resident Evil in space, and putting Nadia there, that would have definitely invoked Resident Evil, right? Because she's already made up to look like Mila Jovovich from Resident Evil, like the way they do her hair, some of the scenes, some of the way she carries herself, her costume design is very much like second movie forward Resident Evil Mila Jovovich.
Exactly, yeah.
Second movie to 39th Resident Evil movie. It's right, like in Spaceballs, like stay tuned for our review of Rocky 5000.
Like unsung hero in the movie, Kung Lee plays Mon. Man, when the way he goes at it is super sad. Like he takes out that fucking like leader guy from the Descent creatures, and then gets killed by that asshole nightmare fuel kid they kept fucking not killing.
Yeah.
Just like, man, why didn't y'all execute that little shit? Like then we could have had Mon still be alive.
My notes when they first introduced him, I was like, oh no. Oh, this part did not age well at all.
He doesn't he's like the Asian martial arts expert. You're just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and the exact note I have written down is white man tells brown man that the white man will save brown man and that brown man should stay put, but brown man keeps saving white man.
Also, if you take a drink every time Ben Foster falls off of something or gets thrown, you will die.
Right.
By the time this movie is over, because I about halfway through it, I was like, Ben Foster has already fallen or been thrown 50 times. Why does it keep happening? And then just like the whole third act is just like he's like gets thrown, gets strangled, falls, climbs back up, falls, climbs back up, gets thrown. It's just like nonstop. It's like poor fucking Ben Foster.
That at least could have been interesting, but they drop it halfway through the movie. Is you have to be super quiet, or the monsters will home in on the sound, because it's a large, quiet, echoing spaceship. Which
at times is super important, and at other times doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Which is like the movie has a bit of inconsistency with that, because that is also if like more of the movie was focused around like don't breathe, like focus like where like there's
shit.
like bless that beautiful soul.
Oh god, I love that lady.
But yeah, it's like that's another tiny concept that they play with that they don't realize could be like the core concept for an entire movie.
Yeah,
that would make it more interesting.
I mean, it is. They eventually make Don't Breathe, right?
You know who was like the master at doing what we were talking about exactly to a T? Was Stephen Moffat in Doctor Who.
Yes.
He made a fucking career of this super small detail, don't blink.
Yeah.
Or like he would have these concepts like the gas mask kids.
Are you and my
it's just
mummy?
This exactly. It's these small concepts. It was these or the silence, you know.
Yeah.
He would have these like very specific details that he would like spiral out into an entire concept. And this movie has some stuff like that would make great concepts. Like like you said, like this movie would be so much cooler. I think you'll really like the first A Quiet Place, because it plays with that kind of thing too, where it's like the entire movie is focused around that because they can't make noise.
Was that you I was sitting next to, and I was like, there's monsters in that movie?
Yeah.
Because every trailer for The Quiet Place was just people sitting around quietly. And I'm like, okay, this is boring. And then it's like day one or something, that trailer fucking shows monsters. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I need to pick that here pretty soon for the
I was like, why does the prequel have monsters?
I think you'll dig it a lot, because like they take that very specific core concept and extrapolate it into an entire movie, and it really works because they can't make a fucking noise, or everyone gets fucking killed, pretty much. So it's like there's concepts like that at play in this that like, man, y'all really needed to realize you had like gold, and they just didn't follow up on it.
That's not
But,
that's not what was popular at the time, right? We're talking Descent and Resident Evil.
yeah, they need to be loud and bloody, and this movie does have some like pretty cool that dude that when they're running excuse me, when they're running from the monsters in the like kind of like middle of the movie, that poor fucker who gets woken up just to immediately get taken out, be like, yeah, that's me.
Yep.
Like that sucks. That poor guy gets like woken up just to be fucking cannon fodder for the monsters, and it sucks. It's like, damn.
So they show
poor
it to
guy
you,
didn't have a chance.
They show that to you after they already imply it, because she says that this is their main hunting ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you figure out the main twist, the big twist of the movie?
Of them being underwater?
Of them already being on the planet, and it hasn't been 8 years, it's been like 1,000 years?
So I figured out pretty early on that I figured out the Dennis Quaid twist. I figured out, because of how many times they kept talking about it, that they had been probably on the mission for like 1,000 years or something crazy like that, 500 years. I did not figure out that they were already on the planet and underwater, which was actually a pretty cool twist for me, because I didn't figure it out.
The moment they show that, my brain immediately snapped back to, this ship is built to outlast our grandchildren. Like, of course it crashed and it fucking survived the crash. Have you ever seen anything built to the level that this spaceship is built? Like, this thing is heavy duty. It just fell out of the sky and just sat there. So, yeah. Of course they're on the planet. Of course they're underwater.
I also like the idea they had to do the reveal where they are looking outside and they can't see the stars.
Yeah.
But that was a very cool detail. That they're like, what the fuck are we looking at? And then they see like the deep sea creatures or whatever.
Yeah, but, the Subnautica creatures go by. Everything's glowing like in Subnautica.
Okay, so I have a question about the ending.
Yeah.
So when they escape and Nadia and Bauer are at the surface,
which is the Pacific Rim ending, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. When they're at the surface and the other pods are being ejected, are those people perfectly fine? Or they talk about how like the evolution of the people that turned them into the monsters was because they started to fuse with the ship. Are any of the people in the pods monsters?
I think
or is that only when you've been on the ship for a long time and you've been like evolving because you woke up like 400 years ago and now you're a monster? Or are all the people on the pods like humans? I wasn't clear about that. I was curious if you knew.
I think that in the context of the movie, the people in the pods are perfectly fine because they've been in hibernation. Because remember, we found out it's been 1,000 years. These things have been evolving to be able to hunt on the ship for 1,000 years. I think realistically, it's probably surprise mechanics. It's like, oh no, this loot box is a monster. This loot box is a doctor.
I would also just be so like they present it as like a happy ending at the end,
right?
Where they're just like, yeah, but like,
now
man,
you're
we got
stranded on a planet, and everything you need to live is at the bottom of the goddamn ocean.
And like, the bottom of the ocean has monsters, which like,
at the very least, there's jellyfish, and that's a no-go for me, bro.
And what's also kind of like interesting to think about is like they specifically talk about how like they are designed because of the gene pool thing to like adapt to their surroundings. The monsters have been adapting to the metal. Who's to say they haven't been adapting to the fucking water around the ship? So they just have fucking sea creature monsters now eventually once the evolution takes hold. There's some like implications to the genes and the monsters to this that they don't really talk about at the ending of the movie, or I'd be fucking horrified. Like, if I lived on that planet, I'd be walking in a straight line as far away from that fucking lake as humanly possible. Like, well, fuck being anywhere near the monsters.
I think the implication is basically all the monsters are dead. Because they sleep around the goddamn reactor, and we see them just turn into pink mist when he corrects the reactor.
They're not all dead, though.
They're not. They're not all, but, I mean... they never showed Dennis Quaid die either, but it's implied, right? Because they're underwater, the ship floods.
Yeah, I was just concerned too if any of the creatures didn't get like eviscerated by the nuclear reactor thing. Are they potentially evolved to the water.
I think
that's
that
why
still takes time. They've had 1,000 years
yeah.
to evolve to the ship, and the ship is a confined. It's its own ecosystem, right?
It's its own ecosystem. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that there's some
It's an
like
interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, like there. So like if this movie had been like more successful, I feel like almost like what we're talking about would have been the kind of like mumbo jumbo explanation for like they're still monsters. They're a combination of the humans, the metal humans, and now like sea creatures because they adapted to like the water over time or some shit. You get what I'm saying though? There is like a bullshit sci-fi original concept in there to make a sequel off of this, to where they're just like, I get they're happy to be alive and shit, but like I have questions about how we're gonna continue the story.
I like what is the thing that can be the trigger for breaking someone's psyche and triggering Pandorum? What would be the one thing that could trigger almost anyone? And that is, Earth doesn't fucking exist anymore. These 1,600 humans on board this ship are the last 1,600 humans in the universe.
Yeah.
That message they got, oh god, I had it on screen. What was it? You're all that's left of us. Good luck, God bless, and Godspeed.
Yep.
That, and it being left ambiguous, like it had to be nuclear or it had to be this or that, and like, what's it fucking matter? Earth is gone. Like that, I think is a really cool emotional trigger. Because what are we doing this for now, right? Like, I don't know. It's like, what does it all matter now if 24 billion people just cease to exist?
Right.
Yeah.
But they're also, it's like, yeah, it's also they're collapsing under the pressure of they are humanity's last chance. It's not just that like,
if
like
we fuck this up like the Eden did,
our species gone.
Yeah.
We're the last, and like the pressure of being humanity's last chance would make a lot of people crack. Yeah, makes
okay. 1,600 might be the
sense.
crew. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. 60,000 people on a 123 year trip to Tanis, an Earth-like planet. So there's 60,000 people on board. And what did the survivor count say at the end of the movie? 1,211 remaining pods. Yeah.
I also just got the the way my brain works is I thought back to the escape pods from Spaceballs. So that's where my brain's at now.
So anytime someone talks about anytime anyone talks about escape pods, my brain goes to that one fucking stormtrooper in the first Star Wars movie. It's so cartoonish that I may as well have been the writer of the movie in that scene. When the guy just pops up with a random piece of metal and goes, "Look, sir, droids." What? I don't know. Every time, so my kids went on a real Star Wars tear recently where we watched 4, 5, and 6, but mainly 4 and 5 on a repeating loop. And every time that one guy pops up from the bottom of the screen out of nowhere, like he's a goddamn Jack-in-the-Box with a random piece of metal, and he's just turning it in the air rapidly, and he just goes, "Look, sir, droids." I saw that enough that I almost wanted to make a compilation of set to some kind of music of just, "Look, sir, droids. Look, sir, droids."
Oh, like a remix of it?
Yeah, just set to like the dun 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 dun.
So you mentioned repeat of 4 and 5. Did they not like Return of the Jedi as much?
I don't think they like it as much because it's more story heavy, and it has it has more of an emotional tone to it rather than just shit blows up real good.
I thought they'd like the Ewoks because that was like their whole purpose for being was to like be
they think
like
the
fodder
Ewoks,
for the little kids.
They think the Ewoks are cute, but the Ewoks also don't have laser guns and lightsabers.
They do eat humans. That's pretty cool.
They do apparently eat humans. They are dining real good on some clone troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing that
I love that. I love that detail where it's like that. Oh, the adorable little teddy bears. Oh, they were about to eat our entire main cast.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is Is this part of the original movie, or is this something they fucked with? When C-3PO is recounting the story and they're doing it entirely through sound effects from the movie.
That was in the original movie. That was
in
not
the original. Okay.
That's in the original, yeah.
That is fucking amazing. Not only is it
good.
genius, and not only like genius to the point that you know exactly what he's saying, even though you don't understand the language. And then it's not really played for comedy, but it's kind of hilarious. But you're not laughing at the movie; you're laughing with the movie. Like I don't know, that whole scene. That's probably that's probably like the second best scene in the third Star Wars movie, Episode 6.
It's also
the third movie. Fuck you, George
The third
Lucas.
movie, yeah, it's really
fuck
fucking
you,
stupid, George.
Fuck you too, Karma.
Fuck you and your math. Shit was it's really endearing because of how like excited the Ewoks are getting, and then when like the Darth Vader sound effects happen, like they show little Ewoks that get scared.
Yeah.
From the sound effects, it's so fucking cute.
Yeah, it's a genius scene.
It's a fantastic scene.
It's literally a one-man show.
Yeah, it's so good. Almost anything you can think of that's good, it's from the original cut. It is not from what George dicked with it, because almost every single thing he changed in the 90s and beyond is fucking garbage.
So, in one of the other podcasts I listened to, there's been a lot of Acolyte talking. And I was right when I was texting you when I watched episode 1 on Disney. And I was like, when the fuck did the Jedis get fucking flash powers? And we couldn't remember if it had always been that way or not in the original. No, that is something that is on the Disney Plus version. That is something new.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting.
that is something new.
God damn it. Just release the original fucking cuts, you assholes, please.
Don't get it.
I know George probably fucking took all the cuts and burned them because he's obsessed with making his perfect new versions, and nothing he can't ever possibly make a fucking mistake. Fuck you, George.
Why don't people get mad about that the way they do about like Konami throwing away or Capcom throwing away the original code for a video game?
They totally have. It's just they've been mad about it. It's just they've been mad about it for 30 years. Yeah. So now people are just out of steam and just have like accepted the fact that George burned all the original fucking prints, and all we can watch now are the terrible 90s versions and beyond. So yeah.
Jesus.
It sucks.
Were there any other... get into it?
We're gonna segue now into a Star Wars: The Phantom Menace review.
Oh man! Oh no!
Was there any other topics though? With I think I've kind of covered everything. Pandorum is like a mixed bag. Some really good stuff. Some stuff that's like I don't think it ever becomes fully bad. It is just things that are frustrating because it's untapped potential, or it's frustrating because they were continuing trends like the shaky cam.
Yeah. That
make me fucking hate almost entire movies from this whole era of movies, because the ones that fall heavily into that trope are obnoxious as all hell to watch now.
It really is a victim of its era. I think that's a lot of where a lot of the problems stem from. Is we're looking for the next Resident Evil or the next Descent, or why not both?
Yeah.
The first act of this movie is what all three acts of the movie should have been.
Agreed.
And like, God, the mystery, like waking up and there's that damage on the door where someone had clearly tried to get out. Like, that is horrifying. That is your horror.
We haven't talked about it. There's a lot of like Dead Space DNA.
I have
to it.
It's funny the way you worded that. In my notes, I have word for word, lots of Dead Space vibes.
Yeah. I want a good Dead Space movie or Dead Space show really bad. If it was
the beginning of this movie is how it starts. This is the goddamn Ishimura.
I love Dead Space, and I wish it would continue as some type of movie or something. It's just like it's just sitting there. It's such a good concept, and it has like name recognition value, but it's just like people are hesitant to do it. Man, if you gave me a mini series done by the Chernobyl guy that did The Last of Us, he just like The Last of Us dude is making a 6-episode Dead Space miniseries, I would fucking kill somebody for that. Oh my god, I would love that so much. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off if I did. Was there any other topics though with this that you wanted to touch on before we sign off?
Only that the thing that I want more than anything else I've ever seen in a movie is Ben Foster's goddamn razor blade.
Dude, I made that thing is sick.
Right?
That would save me so much fucking time.
Could you
Also,
imagine?
it's so fucking
Imagine how
convenient
clean
and
a shave that would be and how you're
man.
burning the hairs away. You know how long it would be before you needed another shave?
And you wouldn't be able to have like razor burn because
my
it's
God.
not, there's no friction or anything.
Maybe
It's just
you have
perfect.
to keep it moving. Maybe if you stop in one spot too long, you get like a sunburn.
Yeah, like that shit was amazing. Also, I felt that even more because I've been needing to change out my electric razor for a really long time, but I'm too lazy and too cheap to buy a new one. So I was like, man, give me that, dude, please.
See, I shaved with a blade, and I was blessed with my mom's really sensitive skin.
Oh, yeah.
Like, electric razor, I may as well just be setting my face on fire. And some people shave daily, and I would if I could, but I have to shave like every 3 or 4 days. And I also hate shaving, so I usually shave like once every week, a week and a half.
Yeah,
I would shave every day with that goddamn thing.
For some reason, I am more.
Manscaping's never been easier with that goddamn razor.
What's really weird is like my skin gets more irritated by like using a razor than an electric shaver for some reason.
Yeah.
So I use an electric shaver every day, but it's so old that I need a new one to where I'm basically just always in a state of 5 o'clock shadow.
I was going to ask you, since this conversation started, how often you shave, because I have never seen you with any sort of facial hair at all. Not even a 5 o'clock shadow.
Well, I could be more clean shaven, but it's because my electric shaver is ass and the blades need to be changed out really bad. So I'm constantly in like the beginning stages of 5 o'clock shadow, but because I shave every morning, I never fully get to like full blown facial hair.
You could buy a new cartridge for it. I've got like a $250 Braun sitting downstairs that I tried.
Yeah. I'm just lazy, and it always like I hate shopping. So that is the last thing that crosses my mind, because usually when I go to the grocery store, I'm there to pick up the set things on the list and get the fuck out because I hate shopping and I hate going to the grocery store. So I've been meaning to do it forever. I could even fucking go to Amazon right now and have the shit delivered tomorrow, but I just
you
don't do
but
it.
Aurora can. Are you still banned?
Oh no, I'm back on Amazon.
Okay, you're back.
I'm
Okay.
back. Yeah, they let me back. Joke's on them. I'm back, bitches. Fuck this. Fuck you too, karma. ...
motherfucker. ...
motherfuckers. I'm glad you picked this though, because like you said, I think this type of movie specifically, where it's like it's so close to being great, it's untapped potential. I think this makes for like the best kind of topic for a review, because you can kind of like reevaluate like different avenues that could have gone down to improve it, instead of just like, yeah, this movie's awesome.
Yeah, like,
this is great. This is great. This is great. This is great. In the review, there's something to like troubleshoot with it.
Yeah, I think this movie is worth checking out. Like even when it's not great, like it's not great, but I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it just becomes a mediocre movie in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the really good parts of the movie are worth checking out the entire movie for. I think it's worth seeing. And it was something I definitely wanted to get your take on. I knew it wasn't going to be your favorite movie of all time or anything, but I was really curious how you'd feel about this movie if it was just such a disappointment that throw away all the good parts too and never watch this movie again, or if they had just let me give one pass over this script.
It's just like you're like grabbing the writer and director by like the shirt collar. It's like, dude,
them.
you're so fucking close, man. Just do another pass and get rid of the fucking shaky cam, for the love of God. But we're in total agreement on this. It is untapped potential. I would be down for like a novelization continuation or something, like just kind of continuing the concepts of it, where someone could kind of like dive in and really figure out like what works and what doesn't, and kind of go from there, because there is good stuff there.
Something else too, I liked Dennis Quaid in this, but what if you switched him out for like Willem Dafoe or something?
I think they specifically went for someone like Dennis Quaid,
because you
keep it as more of a twist
when he comes out.
Because if you have Willem Dafoe, your immediate reaction is going to be
He's the bad
he's
guy.
going to be the bad guy and he's going to go nuts. But when you have Dennis Quaid, he's usually pretty stoic
and pretty straight laced.
and usually the good guy. So I think it's pretty good casting to have him. I think Ben Foster is more miscast than Dennis Quaid, I would say, personally. As much as I like Ben Foster, just not. It's an underwritten character.
What if?
And he's better suited for other types of roles.
What if you got Ben Foster in the Gallo role, right? Hang on one second. Make sure I'm getting the name correct because I couldn't remember off the top of my head. What if you put him in the Gallo role and then change out Ben Foster's main character role for like Thomas Jane?
Thomas Jane would work a lot better to me because Thomas Jane has the kind of like so like compare this to Deep Blue Sea. Thomas Jane's character in Deep Blue Sea isn't a super enriched written character, but Thomas Jane is so likable and has so much charisma, he elevates the character.
Right.
Ben Foster is a great actor,
In
but
Deep
doesn't
Blue
have
Sea,
that
he
like
is
innate
the Ben Foster character from this, basically.
pretty much. But like Ben Foster doesn't have that like innate charisma.
Right.
He has the ability to act eccentrically and with specificity.
Right.
He doesn't have that kind of like Thomas Jane charisma to be the everyman like badass you're rooting for to like I think Thomas Jane would work really well, but if you just kept it within the confines of the current cast, if you just shifted Ben Foster over to Gallo and your main character for the Descent plot was Nadia, the movie is a much better I think there's like a better way to get from point A to point B with
Nadia
that kind of hodgepodge.
Seems like a good opportunity to do a protagonist switch too.
That would have been cool too if like at the beginning of
Ben Foster's character, then once we introduce her, I don't know if you kill Ben Foster or not, but at least switch over to her when she takes over because she knows what the fuck is happening. He was literally born yesterday.
I think you absolutely kill him because that would be awesome stakes for the rest of the movie. You'd be like, holy shit, they killed the guy who's the main character, you know?
Yeah.
I think that would have been excellent. And you don't need at that point really to have Ben Foster for the Dennis Quaid payoff to happen because Dennis Quaid and Ben Foster don't have much screen time to begin with one another.
I would
with the way the movie plays out.
I would absolutely like to see what the original script looked like because Travis Malloy wrote this in the late 90s, and I'm curious what that looked like because there's so much attention to detail in that first act, you know? Like, they're even talking like bridge crew, but they have amnesia, and it's like, how do you know that? And he's like, I don't know. And Dennis Quaid's line's like, that's the training talking. You must be our ship's like engineer or whatever, right? Like, they don't know how they know what they know because it doesn't matter. Like, people running the ship would basically be military. They would have had this shit drilled into them so much that it's instinct. And they don't know their own names, but they know that the reactor needs to be reset because it's going to melt down. And just imagine that plot like we've been talking about. The entire first act, imagine that's the movie, and the goddamn reactor is doing the shit that it's doing. That is terrifying. Could you imagine being locked in that room by yourself when you're Ben Foster before Dennis Quaid wakes up, and the reactor is doing that, and the lights are flickering when it happens and shit?
Yeah, you start venturing into like not the Martian, Project Hail Mary.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of good shit with that in Project Hail Mary that I fucking love so much.
One of the other notes that I have is that their hypersleep system is very similar to the Project Hail Mary one, with all the hoses and stuff going into them, and the shit people quit ripping shit out of your arms. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's not okay. But when you talked about wanting to see the original script, all my brain went to was establishing shot outside Baltimore paper mill, and whatever the fuck that original paper mill shit was like.
Oh, that's not the original. That's what he changed it to. That's what he wanted to change it to.
Yeah. What? How is your get out of jail free card the paper mill idea? How is that the fix? I'm so curious.
So here's what it says under production on Wikipedia. Film began life as a preliminary script by Travis Malloy in the late 90s, originally set in a prison ship named Pandorum. transporting thousands of Earth's deadliest prisoners. This is Pitch Black. Um, transporting Earth's deadliest prisoners to another planet. Cannibal hunters were the result of prisoners' degeneration. Believing no studio would want to make the film, Malloy thought about making it as a low-budget film shot on video in an abandoned paper mill with unknown actors. But it attracted the attention of Paul W.S. Anderson and Jeremy Bolt. They gave it to Impact Pictures, who greenlit it.
Yep.
He wanted to change it from space to a paper mill. Which I want to see all 3 of these movies we've been talking about. This one movie that is 3 movies.
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. It's funny how much.
Because at a paper mill, that sounds like it'd be Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes, right?
I got like visions to like the one scene in like Jacob's Ladder, in like the insane asylum.
Yeah,
like
a prison ship, like that sounds like it belongs in the Riddick universe. I got real big Reaver vibes, by the way, from Firefly off of the monsters in this.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, that does make sense.
That's what I've got in my notes.
Very, very similar. I hadn't thought of that.
But yeah, God damn it, I had something I wanted to go out on in this that I was going to run by you.
I'll start doing our sign-offs and give you a second to think about it.
I got it.
So if you would. Oh, you got.
I thought it wasn't in my notes, but it's actually the longest thing in my notes. So they play with something in the second act of this movie, and I was going to run this by you and see what you thought. This may be a 4th version of this movie we want to see.
Okay.
What if the monsters in this movie is what everyone in this movie is? They're just not seeing themselves this way because of Pandorum.
That's interesting. So, like where they are fucked up, but they're seeing themselves as like the original, like ideal version.
When they are, but everyone is like in their own little cliques, right? So when they see the monsters, they're seeing the monsters. When they see each other, this is how they also look. But because of their psyche is fractured, that's not how they see each other.
So it's kind of like the Scarecrow thing in Batman Begins, where you're like seeing like different representations.
Yeah. So
that could be cool.
Where I got this from is in the second act when they're tearing Norman Reedus apart. There's a moment where Ben Foster is watching this through a window, and you don't know what's happening through the window yet, and he tries to shoot, but it doesn't go through the window, and it alerts them to his location. So in that scene, if you watch that scene carefully, he's looking out the window, and this is happening at a distance. And once he alerts them to him, there's one right up against the window looking at him. But when it cuts wide, that one's not there. And it's almost like that one in the window could be his reflection that he's seeing and trying to shoot at, because he doesn't know he looks like that. And it kind of frames the scene like that's what he's doing. Because when that happens, when he shoots at that one, and I'm assuming what they're going for is this is Pandorum, right? That he's suffering the symptoms. He's got the shakiness. I don't think his nose ever bleeds like Dennis Quaid's does, but
yeah, they also elaborate. They also kind of like tease that it's happening to him, but then all of a sudden he's just kind of fine, and they don't really touch back on it.
I think this is supposed to be it, because that's kind of the one he shoots at, but that one is not there. And when he shoots at it, that's what alerts them to his presence.
So do you almost wonder, like originally in one of the earlier versions, Ben Foster would kind of turn evil and kind of go nuts, but then they in later versions kind of like just shifted that over to purely be Dennis Quaid, and then like now Ben Foster's fine.
I feel like there's a version of this movie where everyone on this ship is these monsters, everybody. But because their psyche is fractured due to space madness, they have organized into cliques because this is how they see each other. But in reality, like that was his reflection in the window. That's what he actually looks like.
Gotcha. Yeah. Just like redo this movie, but focus on the space madness, and it is venturing into territory that is a lot more interesting.
Here too, to talk about the space madness.
Yeah, I love that, man. So good.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that. It's really, I think they're trying to imply that the Pandorum is setting in. That's why he does that, because when it cuts wide, there's no one in front of the window. It's just him looking down on them, and they look up and see him, because he fired that shot at the glass. But when he fires the shot, there's one standing right across the glass from him. So it's a hallucination that he sees. And I feel like the implication is the Pandorum setting in, right? But
Yeah,
because
it just
he sees them at the end of the movie, but it's not done well. And the way that it is done makes it look like he's shooting at his own reflection to me.
yeah. It sucks when you can just kind of spitball concepts that are a lot more interesting than what they decided to go with.
Yeah. But it almost feels like there's yet another version of this movie that I would kind of like to see, right?
Oh yeah, because it's like you take the space madness, you can go in infinite fucking directions, man.
Yeah.
Also, Space Madness would have been a better name for this podcast, so we should probably rebrand.
Dude, is that our green room one?
It's Space Madness dot with no third
Karma dot. That's the name of our new podcast. I hope you all check it out.
Oh man, yeah, check it out.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to run that by you.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Like any thing you can decide to change this movie to that isn't just running away from descent monsters, and I'm down because it's more interesting than just running away from fucking descent monsters for 30 minutes.
The spaceship design in this too, they knock it out of the park. Like the outside design, and it's cool. Very utilitarian, which is the reason the Nostromo is so good, right? Like it looks like it has a purpose.
Yeah, agreed. It very interesting to talk about. And if you watch this on a Sunday afternoon on the Sci-Fi Channel, you'd be like, "That was a good fucking movie." But unfortunately, it had plot concepts that could have aspired beyond that, and they just couldn't quite get there.
I like it. I like it overall, but it could have been. I don't know how much of that is. I like the movie that is inside of this movie, right?
Also, I will just give them the idea of. And I'll just wrap this up really quickly, but like the second twist, I think works even better because you've already done the whole Dennis Quaid twist. So you think you've kind of like skated past the M. Night Shyamalan twist, but then there's like that final thing, and then you're just like, oh fuck, they're underwater. Like, that's super cool because I wasn't expecting another twist. I thought we were kind of wrapped up with that as a concept for it. But so it was very cool.
It actually handles the twists quite well in this because. Usually when a movie twists and then has another twist and has another twist, you're like, come on already. But the twists that it does have are all fairly good twists. And after the second twist, you're like, surely we're done. And then it turns out they're underwater, right? Like, it's super cool. Good. If you're going to have a third twist, it's got to be something that monumental, right? I did have one sentence I forgot I wanted to read you. I said before we recorded that I wanted to read out of the Wikipedia because this is This is incredible to me. The film's title is a fictional slang term for a form of psychosis caused by deep space and triggered by emotional stress, leading to severe paranoia, delirium, and nosebleeds. Like, the way the sentence is written, it's like the nosebleeds is the worst thing in that list.
It's like that's in the side effects part of the commercial for the new medication.
Yeah. May cause emotional stress leading to severe paranoia, delirium, and nosebleeds. Ask your doctor about new Pandorum.
May cause cardiac arrest, spontaneous combustion, and nosebleeds.
Like, I was taught in grammar, the most important thing in a list is at the end. So, severe paranoia, delirium, and nosebleeds. Like, one of these things is not like the other. Like, I don't know. Goodness. I find it really funny. The very last thing I have. Did you know there was a video game?
No fucking clue. What console was it on?
Artificial Life Inc. was the developer and publisher of the iOS 3.0 iPhone iPod Touch game.
An iPod or iPad game? Really? Why?
Yeah, it's let's see. Control the game's main character, Corporal Bauer, on his quest to explore different parts of the ship Elysium in a 360-degree 3D view. Game uses dual stick controls to move and look around, which is fucking awful on that platform.
Now you are the shaky king.
Right? Buttons on the screen allow the player to attack and switch weapons, as well as access various menus. 5 missions where you solve puzzles, defeat monsters, got weapons, healing items. Yeah. I would like to look this up. I looked it up while we were talking. It is no longer available on the App Store.
Shocked.
Well, it's iOS 3.0. We're on 12. I feel 12 or 14.
Yeah.
So they did not keep it up. It's no longer available. It has to exist on YouTube or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find videos.
It was
of it.
$3.99. The first mission was free.
I'm sure
First taste
it's
is
fucking
free.
terrible. I'm sure it's fucking terrible.
What I want is a game where you play as the fucking cannibal.
Oh, where you're hunting down the people? Yeah. I'm going to use Ben Foster as a resource.
Right? You have to harvest the humans while hiding from the monsters.
Man.
On a spaceship for no reason.
So if you harvest Dennis Quaid, does it count as 2 resources?
Ooh, I see what you did there. But yeah, I think that's gonna be. I've got.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a wrap for our Pandora coverage. Thanks for picking this because it was a fun thought experiment. I always like movies like this where there's a lot of like Monday morning quarterbacking to try to figure out what doesn't work. Because that's part of like what's fun for me is as far as like the writing side of it is I like diving deep and trying to figure out at what point in this script could we have gone a parallel route where we're still in the same vein of the movie but taking it into more interesting territory.
Right.
It's always a really fun thought experiment for me. So thanks for picking this.
It seems to me, I was shocked that you hadn't seen it because if you'd seen the trailer, it seems like something that's right up your alley trailer-wise, right? The way
the trailer totally worked for me. It was just one of those things to where saw the trailer, looked really cool. It's up my alley, obviously. I love shit like this. But it wasn't very successful. It was probably out of the theater within like a week because of how bad the box office was and shit.
It's legendarily
and it was just one
bad.
And it was just one of those where it came and went so fast that I just forgot about it. Because like when you talked about it and when you announced it as your pick, it's like, oh yeah, because like I remember how much I was intrigued by the trailer, but just never got around to it.
You didn't even recognize the title. It wasn't until I was describing it
I didn't.
That you recognized.
And how often does that happen? Usually I recognize fucking everything, even if I haven't seen it and it came out like 40 years ago, just because the way my IMDb brain works, unfortunately. But yeah. If you would like to follow the show more, we are on Twitter at SPR Filmcasts, where you can find our show updates and everything, and announcements when we're going to be late. Apologies for this would be in a few days late.
Sorry about that.
Couldn't be helped. Could not be helped, but we're happy with the end result. I feel like it's been a pretty good recording. If you found us on YouTube, obviously liking and subscribing to the channel always helps us out a ton. Please share us out to your friends. We have covered several sci-fi things in a row, and I feel like that's pretty good. Kind of jumping on point, catch our little kind of like sci-fi marathon that we've done.
It's an underserved genre these days, and
it is, sadly.
It's one of my favorites.
Me too. Any ratings or reviews on whichever podcast platform you've caught us on always helps out. And if I didn't already mention it, please share us out to your friends. And Ron, what do we're covering next time?
Yes.
So I am bucking the sci-fi trend.
Oh no.
Because as much as I love them, I have been jonesing to watch a new horror movie that I have not seen. Just whatever not one in particular, just fucking anything. Because it's been a minute since I've seen a horror movie. I want to watch another one. So I went to Google and just pulled up what's some new good horror shit to watch, and I found one that has gotten a lot of buzz that just came out over the last couple of months, I believe. But it's on streaming, not the super fuck off $20 streaming price, which do you also refuse to pay $19.99 to stream a movie?
Yeah,
to have access to it for 2 days. I refuse to pay $20 for a 48 hour rental, whatever it is. Fuck that. But it is at the cheaper price for renting now. It is a horror movie that I don't know much about, but I did after finding it on a recommendation list. It's gotten a lot of buzz. It has very good reviews. It is a horror movie called Oddity, and I watched the teaser trailer for it. Seemed to be kind of in the kind of horror vein that I'm into. It's kind of like a spooky kind of Hereditary style horror, kind of like looks to be kind of like a creepy kind of slow burn, which I'm kind of down for. It's available for rental on Apple and Amazon, I believe. It is called Oddity.
Interesting.
So haven't seen it. could be dog shit. We'll find out. I'm excited. I want to watch a new horror movie that I haven't seen.
What's great was I had 2 movies picked out for my next pick. One of them, sci-fi, if you continued the trend. And then one of them is, if you didn't continue the trend, a movie that I have also never seen.
Nice.
So
and if you ever want to,
we're going
if you
down
ever
the
want to
same
jump us
route.
back on the sci-fi, yeah, if you ever want to jump us back on the sci-fi train, go right ahead because I'm always down for that too. So whatever you want to pick next time.
Yeah, no, I already know what
Yeah.
I'm picking next time because you cemented it.
Nice.
So you're picking
Nice.
one that neither one of us have seen, and I'm picking one I believe, I'm pretty sure neither one of us
Neither
have
one
seen.
of us have seen. We will find out in a couple of weeks, but yeah.
Straight. Tune in next time. You want to know what I'm picking?
Yeah. Dot. Yeah. Thanks again
Fuck
for
you, Karma.
fuck you, Karma. Fuck you too, Karma. Thanks again for listening. And have a good night. Dot. I almost want to make this comment the backdrop for the Twitter.
Just a screenshot.
That'd be so good. But I can't take off Nick Cage
plunger.
plunging the Five Nights at Freddy's monster. It's got to stay on there, dude. It's eternal.